Welcome to my old backyard. Like I said in my previous video, I just moved back into my old house. I used to live in a Chicago suburb, Wheaton, but now I moved back into the old house that I literally haven't been in since I was 4th grade. That's about like 12, 13 years ago, but I'm kicking it back to my roots today. You know, as a kid, my old room was a small room. It had fishing wallpaper. I've loved fishing my whole life, and although I lived in the Chicago suburbs, I lived right next to a big forest preserve. So as a kid, every day I would just mess around in the forest, just ride around, ride my bike, go fishing. And one of my favorite things to do was come here in my backyard. This used to be like a big, not big, but big for a 3rd, 4th grader and even younger, a big jungle gym type thing, but it was all surrounded by these wooden blocks. And what I would do is I would look for worms under these. I'd look for worms under like the stones that just near my house. Just be a kid, just mess around. I'd get the worms, I'd put them in a little cup, and I'd go down to the little creeks, and I'd go in and I'd catch whatever I could. So today we're gonna throw it back big time. That's one of my favorite things about fishing. You can really transcend time through it. Most people remember the first time they caught a fish. A lot of adults, like when you become a father, your kid, we're close to an airport here. I know a lot of fathers, their first memories when they get their kids on their first fish, stuff like that. So fishing is something that you can transcend time. You can always remember fishing memories. So for me, coming back here, this is a big fishing memory. I'm gonna look for some worms. Again, there's really nothing in this house. I'm gonna throw some dirt and put them in this cup with the little freezer pack to keep them cool. And I'm gonna go down to some creeks and see what I can catch. First victim, I already got one. They're not big, they're not giant earthworms, but some will eat that. Again, these are tiny creeks, so they're not exactly filled with a bunch of big fish. Oh, I found another worm too. See, that'll catch fish, I swear, I swear. Now that I got all dirty and sweaty, it's already 93 degrees and it's 10 a.m. in Chicago. That is not normal, especially not for beginning of June. This is supposed to be the good time. It's not even summer yet, technically. This is supposed to be the good, like mid-70s sunny time. No, it's 90s and humid. But I think I got enough bait. If I run out of worms, there's always worms in the forest I'm sure I can find. I'm gonna go wash my hands so I don't get the camera all dirty, and then show you guys how I'm gonna catch these fish. While that car cools down, yes, I am driving down the street when it's this hot. The smallest rod I have is a 7-foot spinning rod, so I'm just gonna use the ice fishing rod again. This will be perfect for the tiny creeks, because it's mostly a creek that's maybe this wide and then a bunch of tiny little spillways. First off, thank you to John B. He left these hooks in my boat maybe a month ago, and they're gonna be perfect for tiny creek fishing. Just a tiny little treble hook. I'll just spike one of the tips with the worm. The tiny sunnies, bluegill, warmouth, tiny largemouth, whatever's gonna be in this creek wanting to bite the worms should get hooked with that. This was the jig I used to catch them fishing underwater. That was fun. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. I'm a Yankee at heart. I don't know how you southern guys do it in the summertime. Like Texas, Florida especially, that hot and humid weather is my kryptonite. I just shut down. Like, it's not the sweat, I just run out of energy. I don't know if I don't drink enough water or what it is, but when it gets hot and humid, I do not function well. Anyone that works blue-collar jobs in the summer, in the heat, you have my utmost respect. But we're not complaining. We're gonna be under trees, it's gonna be shaded, it's gonna feel nice. It's gonna feel just fabulous. All right, so I got my 2-pound line, tiny little treble hook. I'm just gonna stick that worm on there and dip and dabble around this tiny creek. I hope I can catch a lot. If I remember correctly, I used to catch a good amount, that these creeks were kind of loaded. Tiny little urban creeks. I'm in the middle of suburbia right now, maybe 10 miles from O'Hare Airport. If you look at this area on a map, it's just nothing but houses and subdivisions. So not exactly the type of place where fishing thrives, but we're gonna see what we can do. Okay, so there is my first spot. I'm not gonna go to it yet. I gotta creep on over there, make a long cast to not scare them, but this is all the creek is. Here's the creek. Tiny little creek. You'd never expect there to be fish in it, but in the certain little pools like there is in any tiny creek, it can hold fish. I really hope there's still fish in here. Please don't make me look stupid, fish. Come Come on, fish. Unfortunately, I do not think this hole has fish anymore. Typically with these tiny creeks, you drop something in there like a worm. If there's fish in there, they're hitting it immediately. Especially because there's usually competition between a lot of little bluegill, stuff like that, so they pounce on it. All right, well, just like any other type of fishing, you stay mobile till you find them. They were not there. This creek is very low, so we got to find them. All right, I'm gonna try to do this a lot stealthier than I thought I needed to. This neighborhood's full with old grandparents that just like to look around, and as you're a 10-year-old, it's easy to get away with this stuff, but when you're in your 20s, it's not. I think these creeks experience like periods of low water because they do not look the same as they used to at all. And these used to be filled with little fish, and now they've got nothing. Oh. Okay, there are tiny ones in here. They're baby. These usually be filled with like 4 or 5 inch bluegill. Oh, missed them. That was a bluegill though. Oh, there's a bigger bluegill right there. Come on, I need you. I need you. Oh yeah. Look at that big frog. Money. Score. This is what's in these tiny creeks. This is what I was trying to capture with dope. This bluegill. Come on, buddy. It's freaking, there you go. Come on. He was just sitting down there. It made me come all the way down here just to save him. All right, well, I'm going to get a new worm. That fish was a perfect example of what I was trying to capture through this video. When I was a kid just getting into fishing, that 5-inch bluegill was a 5-pound bass to me. I loved going in any little body of water I could find, dunking in some worms and catching whatever was gonna bite. So that's typically what these little creeks were filled with, those smaller bluegills. Sometimes you'd get a nice big bluegill, sometimes you'd get a little bass. And nowadays, now that I know much more about fishing, it shocks you that they can survive in a tiny little, basically sewage creek. But fish are hardy creatures, especially bluegill and bass. So now that I got a new worm, I'm gonna try to catch some more. Oh. So that way it just gets shallower and shallower. This is already a creek that's maybe half a foot deep to begin with. Basically just have to find the deep holes. So residents of this tiny creek, you got a lot of bluegill, a big painted turtle, a lot of big frogs, and as many mosquitoes as I remember being in like northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, Canada. No bug spray was the wrong move. No bug spray is always the wrong move. I should trademark that. A bluegill did to me what they do best, and he robbed me of my worm. And frankly, I'm sick of the mosquitoes at this spot, so time to move. Want to catch a trophy gill, that giant mega 6-inch, maybe a little bass, that'd be great. As these suburban areas explode with population, it's really kind of sad to see what happens to a lot of the wildlife areas. This used to be a freely flowing creek, the same, like a different section of the creek near my house. Oh, well, there's something alive. There's a carp. There's a carp, but now it's just like a mud bath. And obviously carp can pretty much survive in anything. That probably sounds pretty ignorant, but that's to my knowledge. Carp can survive in anything, but it just looks dead. Stagnant dead. This used to be clear water, pretty fast flowing creek, but it is no longer. I'm gonna check one more spot and then maybe I'll try the lakes around here. I don't know. Maybe I'll make this more just a fishing areas I used to fish video. Because right now I'm blocking off traffic and people are looking at me weird. Hello? Well, the plan for this video was to be fishing all the tiny creeks that I used to fish as a kid. However, that took a turn for the worse, since as much as it pains me to say this, I think those creeks had a drought or something like that, because there was only fish in one of the spots, and that was one of the bigger parts of the river. So that's not really what I wanted to capture. So to fill out this video, because I don't want to just catch 1 or 2 bluegill in a video, and I really want to post this because I think it's something really cool and important to share with you guys. So always go back to your childhood fishing spots. Gonna go back to one of my favorite ponds that's right next to my elementary school. As a kid, I would always fish this pond because it was literally right next to my elementary school. I'd have like soccer games and stuff there. Me and my dad brought some rods one time. We caught some fish, so I'm gonna go poke around and see how it's doing now. Now, what a better way to be welcome back to the Chicagoland ponds in mid-June than to throw a frog. It's the best time to be throwing a frog around here. And yes, this is an old, crusty Berkeley rod. I typically don't put much money into frog rods because you don't really need sensitivity. You see the blow up and you lean back on them. As long as it's a strong rod, it's typically good to go, but I tried to tighten the cork and it popped. So we're working with that today, but it shouldn't be a big problem. Yes, there is still scum. I was just about to say this is a pretty shallow, weedy lake. It's usually a good frog lake, and it is still scummy, cheesy. To not scare anything, you got to take those far casts, not just walk up on the fish. Oh, there's a good one. First fish. All right, there's still bass in here. Well, something took a bite out of his tail. That's fresh. Good deal. Not a huge one, but I will take it. First fish back. Score. Again, that's a reason why you don't just walk up here. Had I walked up to right there and taken a cast, that fish was right there in the corner. He would have 100% been scared. Thought the fish was a lot bigger by the blow up. I have not frog fished in a while. Ironically, the last time I frog fished was in February in good old Tejas with Grant, I think. Mother Nature's not having it today. I even brought the right footwear. I was prepared, but the winds just whipped up out of nowhere. We got like a storm front moving in, that like gray, dark cloud stuff we got going on there. I ain't having any of that. This right here is why you pack more than one lure, boys and girls. I was cocky. I thought, yeah, I'll be fine with just a frog. It's a really weedy lake. And I was fine until this wind whipped up. I'd be great with a swim jig right now, but I was being stubborn because I didn't want to catch him on a swim jig. I wanted to catch him on a frog. Now look where we're at. In a monsoon with a frog. No bueno. You know what? I'm not going to complain. I'm going to be smart. And I'm going to adjust. I'm on a pond, so I can just go on the other side of the pond and cast with the wind. And be not on the side that's getting beaten down by the wind. Let's use our noggins here. This side of the pond is so much better, it's not even funny. But we got another kid that's fishing the same spot I was, has a GoPro on just like I do. It's so awesome how many more kids are getting into fishing now, and especially wanting to share it online and be passionate about something. It's honestly something that's just awesome to see, because that was not a thing when I was his age in middle school, early high school. Fishing was not quote unquote cool. Now fishing's getting quote unquote cool, and it's growing the sport tremendously, and I think it's awesome. Well, like I said, it's good to see kids fishing and getting into fishing, but you have to respect the resource if you're going to get into fishing. If you're going to keep fish within your legal limit, that's fine. The kid that was just fishing over there, he ran up all the way over there, was running the whole time to get a scale or something like that. I don't really know what, but he left the bass on the grass over there. So he looked like he was someone that was just sport fishing, like fishing for his YouTube or whatever, just had his chest mount on. But don't leave a bass in the grass for minutes. That fish is, there he is running. That's too bad. It's nice to see kids excited about fishing and the fish they catch, but you guys have to be aware, I was at that age too. I was at the age where I'd catch a 4-pounder and I'd start shaking from excitement. He might be at that stage, but leaving a bass in the grass it's been in there for at least 2 to 3 minutes now while he runs back to get something. It's nice to see kids excited about fishing, but that's not the way to do it. He's more concerned about getting it on the camera, it seems, and the health of the fish. I'm not trying to put anyone on blast here, make the kid feel bad, anything like that. Just trying to let people know that I was there. It's great to be excited about a fish, but yeah, he just picked it up again and put it on his scale. Getting so excited about a bass that you're gonna kill it just to get a weight on it is not the right way to go about it. Now again, that fish might live, but it was sitting in the grass for 3 minutes while he got a scale. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is it's good to be excited about fishing, but you have to keep in mind the resource as well and not just kill a bass just to get a weight on it. Well, all in all, this pond turned pretty dookie. Before, there used to be a couple big fish in here. Probably is still the case, but I think it gets a lot more pressure now. Ooh, big swirl. A lot more pressure nowadays, which is fine. A lot more people getting into fishing. These public ponds are the ones that are gonna get hammered. But it's nice to see that there is still fish in here. They didn't have like a big kill off or anything like that, because a lot of times these shallow ponds, you can get a cold winter, gone. Fish won't be completely eradicated, but most of them will die off in the cold. There's really only like maybe a quarter of this pond left, and I'm gonna have that other angler have it. Probably just gonna go back to the car, and I'll meet you guys in the car. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this more laid-back, blast from the past type of video. As my first day back home, I'm just settling in. I encourage you to the places you started fishing and really bring those memories back, because it's an awesome feeling for sure. As always, thank you for watching, and don't leave bass in the grass while you go get your scale. Again, I empathize, but just don't leave them in the grass.